The 21st of May, 1900, Volume 3. The most sublime state is to undo one's own will in the will of God, and to live of His will. This morning my adorable Jesus was not coming. Then after much waiting, He came, and caressing me told me, "My daughter, do you know what my design is upon you and the state I want from you?" And pausing a little, He added, "The design I have upon you is not of prodigious things, and of many things which I could operate upon you to show my work. Rather, my design is to absorb you in my will, making you one with it, and to make of you a perfect example of uniformity of your will with mine. But this is the most sublime state. It is the greatest prodigy. It is the miracle of miracles that I intend to make of you. My daughter, in order to arrive at making her will perfectly one with ours, the soul must render herself invisible. She must imitate me, who, while I fill the world by keeping it absorbed within myself, and by not being absorbed in it, render myself invisible, for I do not let myself be seen by anyone. This means that there is no matter in me, but that everything is most pure spirit. And if in my assumed humanity I took on matter, it was to render myself similar to man in everything, and to give him a most perfect example of how to spiritualize this very matter. So the soul must spiritualize everything and arrive at becoming invisible in order to be able to easily make her will one with my will, because that which is invisible can be absorbed by another object. If one wants to make one object out of two objects, it is necessary that one of these lose its shape, otherwise one could never arrive at forming one single thing. What fortune yours would be if, by destroying yourself to the point of becoming invisible, you could receive a shape fully divine. Even more, by being absorbed in me and I in you, forming one single being, you would come to retain the divine source within yourself. And since my will contains every good that can ever be, you would come to retain all goods, all gifts, all graces, and would not have to look for them anywhere else but within yourself. And if virtues have no boundaries, when the creature is in my will in so far as she can reach, she will find their limit, because my will makes one acquire the most heroic and sublime virtues which the creature cannot surpass. The height of the perfection of a soul undone in my will is such that she reaches the point of operating like God. And this is no wonder, because since it is no longer her will that lives in her, but the will of God Himself, every amazement ceases if by living with this will she possesses the power, the wisdom, the sanctity, and all the other virtues that God Himself contains. It is enough to tell you, so that you may become enamored and cooperate as much as you can on your part to reach such a point. And the soul who arrives at living of my will alone is queen of all queens, and her throne is so high as to reach the throne of the Eternal One. She enters the secrets of the most august Trinity and participates in the reciprocal love of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Oh, how all the angels and saints honour her, men admire her, and the demons fear her, seeing the divine being in her. Ah, Lord, when will you make me arrive at this, since by myself I can do nothing? Now, who can say all that the Lord infused in me through intellectual light about this uniformity of wills? The height of those concepts is so great that my tongue, not well refined, has no words to express them. I can only say this little, though speaking nonsense, of that which the Lord made me comprehend through this most vivid light. End of the reading. The 21st of May, 1913, Volume 11, Practical and Real Way to Consume One's Own Being in the Divine Being. As I was in my usual state, my always adorable Jesus told me, "My daughter, I want the true consummation in you, not fantastic, but true, though in a simple and feasible way. Suppose that a thought came to you which was not for me. You must destroy it and substitute it with the divine. In this way, you will have consumed the human thought and acquired the divine thought. So if the eye wants to look at something that displeases me or is not referred to me, and the soul feels mortified, she has consumed the human eye and acquired the eye of the divine life, and so on for the rest of your being. Oh, how I feel these new divine lives flowing in me, taking part in everything I do. I love these lives so much that I give everything for love of them. These souls are first before me, and if I bless them, all the others are blessed through them. They are the first to be benefited and loved, and through them, others too are benefited and loved." End of the reading. The 21st of May, 1921, Volume 13, Jesus finds rest in the souls who live in his will. As I was in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen in my arms in the act of taking rest. I pressed him to my heart, and I told him, "My love, say a word to me. Why are you silent?" And Jesus, "My beloved daughter, rest is necessary to me. After I have spoken to you so much, I want the first effects of my words within you. You work, doing what I have taught you, and I will rest. And once you have put my teachings into practice, I will come back again to speak to you about higher and more sublime things, in order to find rest more beautiful in you. Besides, if I do not rest in the souls who live in my will, in whom could I hope for rest? Only the souls who live in my will are able to give me rest. The living in my will forms the room for me. The acts done in my will form my bed. The repeated acts and the constancy in repeating them are the lullabies, the melodies, and the opium to favour my sleep. However, while I sleep, I watch over you in such a way that your will is nothing other than the outpouring of mine, your thoughts the outpouring of my intelligence, your word the outpouring of mine, your heart the outpouring of my heart. Therefore, even if you do not hear me speak, there is such dissolving of yourself within me that you do not want, nor think, nor do anything but what I want and do. So as long as you live in my will, you can be sure that everything that happens within you is me." End of the reading. The 21st of May, 1925, Volume 17, How Corruption is a Cloud Before the Sun of the Divine Will. I was thinking to myself and almost lamenting to my adorable Jesus that sometimes he works in such a way that he comes and makes me suffer in the presence of the confessor, and as much as I try to resist falling into that state of loss of consciousness and of sufferings, it is impossible for me. And I say to Jesus, "My love, there was time last night, and there is time today for you to come and make me suffer. For now, since the confessor is here, let me be free. Afterwards, you will do whatever you want. I'll be at your disposal." But no, I speak in vain. An irresistible force surprises me and puts me in a state as if I were dying. So I was lamenting to Jesus about this, and I prayed that he would not allow it. And he, all goodness, told me, "My daughter, if I allow it, it is because of the firmness of the confessor, who does not cease to pray me to make you suffer, always for the purpose of my glory and of appeasing me. If I did not concur, I would remain dishonoured in you and you would cause doubts about the truths which I manifested to you, both on my will and on the other virtues. One could say, where is the obedience of the victim, in whom the very nature must be transformed into what obedience wants? So you do not realize that by refusing this which I am working, you would come to dishonor me and to make them stop believing that it is I who speak and operate in you. Furthermore, you must know that in order to entrust to you the mission of my will, if I did not remove from you the original sin, as I did with my beloved Mama, I removed from you the tendency of concupiscence and the seed of corruption, because it befitted the decorum and the sanctity of my will not to take its place in a corrupted will and nature. These would have been like clouds before the sun of my will, and the knowledges of it, like rays, would not have penetrated and would not have taken possession of your soul. Now, since my will is in you, all heaven, the most holy Virgin, all the saints and angels are bound to you, because my will is life of each one of them. Therefore, when you hesitate even slightly, or when you reflect on whether you should adhere or not, heaven and earth feel their foundations being shaken, because that will, which is life of all, and which, because of its highest goodness, wants to reign in you as in heaven, does not have its full dominion, its just honour. Therefore, I recommend to you, never again call your will to life, if you want your Jesus to be honoured in you, and my will to have its full dominion. I remain frightened in hearing of the great evil I do by merely reflecting on whether I should surrender or not to what Jesus wants from me, even though I always end up surrendering. What would happen if, may this never be, I did not surrender? I felt distressed, fearing I might do that. And my adorable Jesus, having compassion for my distress, as I felt crushed, fearing that, may this never be, I might not always do his most holy will, came back and told me, my daughter, courage. Do not fear. I told you this, and I showed you how all of heaven is bound to that will of mine which reigns in you, so that you may never surrender to your will, since the divine will and the human will are the fiercest enemies of each other. And since the divine will is stronger, holier, more immense, it is convenient for the enemy, the human will, to be under it, at its feet, and to serve as a footstool of the divine will. In fact, one who must live in my will should not consider himself a terrestrial citizen. Rather, he should consider himself a citizen of heaven. And it is with just reason that all the blessed feel shaken, because one who lives with their same will is thinking of letting the human will enter the field, cause of disorder, which has never entered the celestial regions. You must be convinced of the fact that by living of my will, the life of your will is ended. It no longer has reason to exist. This is why I have told you many times that living in my will is very different from just doing my will. These are free to give it and to take it back because they live as terrestrial citizens, while one who lives in it is bound to an eternal point, flows together with my will, and is surrounded by an inconquerable fortress. Therefore do not fear and be attentive. Then, as though wanting to cheer me and to strengthen me in his most holy will, he took my hand in his and told me, my daughter, come and do your round in my will. See, my will is one, but it flows in all created things as though divided, but without being divided. Look at the stars, the blue heavens, the sun, the moon, the plants, the flowers, the fruits, the fields, the earth, the sea. Everything and everyone. In each thing there is an act of my will, and not only an act, but my will has remained in each created thing as the preserver of my own act. My will does not want to remain alone in its act, but wants the company of your act. It wants your return. This is why I placed you in my will, that you may keep company to my acts, and together with my will, you will want whatever I want, that the stars twinkle, that the sun fill the earth with light, that the plants bloom, that the field become golden, that the bird warble, that the sea murmur, that the fish dart. In sum, you will want whatever I want, and so my will no longer feel alone in the created things, but will feel the company of your acts. Therefore go around each created thing, make yourself act for every act of my will. This is to live in my will, never to leave your Creator alone, to admire all of his works, and to give to him in return for his divine acts, the little acts of a creature. I don't know how I found myself in that immense void of light in order to find all those acts which came out of the will of God, to place in them my return, an act of adoration, of praise, of love, and of thanksgiving. Then I found myself inside of myself. End of the reading. The 21st of May, 1929, Volume 26, The Divine Will, Light, Love, Heat, Divine Nourishment and Outpouring. I am always back into my dear inheritance of the divine volition, and it seems to me that I go around gleaning within it. And Jesus, so very good, does not neglect to give me his beautiful lessons about each of those ears of grain that I keep gathering. But while I was going around, I kept repeating my refrain over each thing. I love you, and let my love be the sweet chain that, binding the eternal fiat, may draw it, do violence on it, to make it come to reign upon earth. Now, while I was doing this, my adorable Jesus told me, my daughter, my divine will is light, is love, is heat. Light and heat are inseparable from each other and form the same life. This is the necessity of the fusion of my will and of my love. A will that does not love is not operative. A love that has no will is without life. However, my will has the first act. It can be said that its light makes the heat arise. It does the first act and calls the life of love within its light, forming one single thing. Who can ever separate the heat from the light? No one. However, the bigger the light, the stronger the heat. So with a little light, one can just barely feel the strength of the heat. A big light gives much heat and produces admirable effects. How many and what effects does the sun not produce? Because its light is so great as to embrace the whole earth. It can be said that it is the king of the earth. With its light or with its heat, it caresses everyone. It embraces everything and does good to all, and without asking anything from anyone. Why? First, because it does not need anything. Second, because all would feel impotent to repay the sun for the great good it does to all the earth. So this is why you feel within yourself two infinite powers fused into one, my divine will and my love. And the light of my volition makes you run to place your I love you, that it unleashes from its womb of light upon all created things, so as to see the whole creation bejeweled by its I love you and yours. In addition to this, life needs nourishment. My divine will is life, my love is food. Each I love you of yours is a sip of nourishment that you give to my fiat within you, and each act of yours done in my will makes the life of it grow within you. Oh, how the life of my will delights and grows admirably in the creature when it finds much divine love. It can be said that my fiat finds its food and my love finds its life. After this, I continued to think about the adorable fiat, and my sweet Jesus continued saying, my daughter, one who lives in my divine will is under the continuous outpouring of her Creator. Our love toward her is so great that we are so enraptured in seeing our fiat in the littleness of the creature that we want to give her always, always, without ever ceasing. Now, this divine outpouring of her fills her so much as to leave not one void within her, in such a way that, whatever place she leans on, she always finds the fullness of our outpouring that sustains her, in such a way that she cannot bend over herself, because our outpouring sustains her and carries her as though in triumph in its arms. But do you know what we pour out? Love, light, grace, sanctity, power, and so on. Now, all these qualities of ours compete among themselves for carrying this little creature in their arms. It seems that they vie with one another for her, and they take turns, so as to say, we all have carried her. And while each one of them carries her in its arms, it is love that carries her. It fills her so much with love as to take pleasure in seeing the tiny little one drowned with its love. And only when it sees her overflow with love, then does it content itself with letting her pass into the arms of light, because they want to see, being repeated in the tiny little one, what her Creator has done. The light takes delight in drowning her with light, grace in drowning her with grace, power in drowning her with power, but so much as to captivate the Creator himself. In sum, this little creature lives under the continuous outpouring of God that fills her so much that she feels drowned and cannot contain it, in such a way that she is forced to pour it outside. So what you say about my divine will is nothing other than the outpouring of what you contain inside. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.